Hey, what's up guys, Knight here. Today we have another video. We got a review for Stellar Blade. It is here, it has arrived, or it at least was here since it has been about a month since the game was released, so I'm a little late. It's a game that I've been anticipating since it was shown off as Project Eve about 4 years ago, and I'm happy I can say that it did not disappoint in the aspects that I was looking forward to the most, specifically being the soundtrack and the overall setting slash aesthetic of the game. But of course, there were some parts that did disappoint me, or at least parts that I weren't as fond of, like the pacing of the story, how it handled its characters, or just some of the inconvenient quality of life features. I did really love the combat though, especially in the later half of the game when most of Eve's kit got fleshed out. However, there are some nitpicks here and there with that too. The majority of this video will be spoiler free, with the end having some spoiler discussion on the story so that I can go a bit more in depth about the gripes I had with it, since most issues arise in the last 6 to 7 hours of the game with the story, but don't worry, I'll mention it beforehand as well as the video having timestamps for ease of access to skip around. So honestly, what I love about Stellar Blade the most is the music. I feel like maybe that's a similar sentiment for a lot of people. I could be wrong, but from the early game trailers, I already was loving what I was hearing, but with the full game out now, I can easily say it's on my favorite OSTs of the year, probably right beside FF7 Rebirth, surprisingly. Now, Stellar Blade probably doesn't really have as many songs as Rebirth does, or even like a Final Fantasy 16. However, all of its music sets the tone for the areas in the game, along with just like straight up being bangers that I would probably listen to and will listen to frequently once it is available to streaming, which I think is soon. They did say like summer, so we should be kind of close to that. But the music very clearly takes after the Nier franchise, which pretty much the whole game has many similarities to. But that's not really a bad thing, because I think most people would agree that like Replicant or Nier Automata have some of the best video game music of all time. Probably for me, it has my favorite soundtrack, like as a whole, in video games. So that's not really an issue or I think a bad thing at all. It seems way more like a compliment to me. I'm pretty sure the main theme of the game is called Everglow. They did release like a mini soundtrack on the day of release of the game, and it is absolutely beautiful. There's vocals, it's in some of the trailers, so I'm pretty sure it's the main theme. But either way, Everglow, it's a phenomenal song. I've listened to it so many times. The boss music in the game is also great. It bounces kind of from like a rock slash metal feel to like an electric anime style. There's specifically one song in the game that is so damn good. I'm not going to really mention what it is exactly for the sake of spoilers until the end of the video. The overworld themes are amazing to listen to on loop, because when you're running through each location, some of them are pretty big depending on what they are, but the game really doesn't it's not scared to play the overworld theme over and over and over again. Some games don't like doing that because they think it'll get annoying, but games like, even once again making the comparison to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth also replays the shit out of the one songs for each area. And Stellar Blade does the same. It has an overworld theme and it keeps playing and playing. Granted, you know, when you're in combat it might change up, but each area just has great music. It's very chill. There's some high intense ones. It's just a bunch of different genres mixed together, and I just really enjoy it a lot. Not to mention the songs that Enya, which is a side character, she sings when you complete more of her quests. She is in Zion, the main hub, and her songs, her voice, the whole little side quest for that is absolutely amazing. It's beautiful. I love her character design as well, but we'll get into that later. It's just great. I hope we can get that also on streaming soon, in the Zion overworld theme, because the overworld theme also just like has this like kind of K-pop, like more chill, like J-poppy sound to it. I said it sounds kind of like Joji, but I haven't really listened to him in a while. But it's just, music is great. I love it, and we'll talk about more in the spoiler section because, you know, I don't want to spoil some stuff. So along with the music, the setting of the game is just fucking sick. Like, I've probably mentioned it the most as playing through the game, or even before I played the game, but the space aesthetic, the sci-fi kind of whole thing going on, looks so cool to me. And I love Xenoblade, and Final Fantasy has it sometimes, and there's some other games that do it as well. It's kind of like Star Wars. I don't really like that, or like even FF13 kind of doesn't do it for me, but like Stellar Blade, I don't know what it is exactly. They blow it out of the park, whether with the designs of Eve, as, you know, the main character herself, the side characters, or some of the side characters at least, or even the set pieces throughout the game. Like, there's some massive set pieces with just like cool ass like sci-fi shit. Like, I'm just like, what? Like, it's awesome. I don't know how to really go into it without spoilers once again, but it's so sick, and I do kind of wish that they pushed it a bit harder, other than like some sections throughout the game, since like one of my major issues is how some of the main areas get a bit repetitive even with the activities scattered around the areas. Not to say that each area is like boring and bland and empty. I didn't really love having two desert areas, even if they were relatively different in scale and like verticality. The abundance of sand didn't really do it for me. It kind of made me sad since the parts of the games that had you in locations with like heavy tech and whatnot were just so damn cool. But, you know, it's okay. That could be improved in the second game because that's a really big thing with this game is that it's a really great groundwork, which once again I'll get into a bit later. But even with some of the locations getting a little stale quicker than I could have hoped, the game would be quick to redeem itself by the end of each journey with a satisfying boss fight and more space tech areas to explore, so really, I can't complain too much. And obviously, if I'm speaking on the aesthetic of the game, I really can't, like, not mention the outfits because that is a huge part of the game and even, you know, some of the discourse surrounding the game. The outfits for Eve, Lily, and Adam are awesome, even though I didn't get any extra Adam outfits on my first playthrough, which is kind of surprising since I did do every single side mission with, you know, its little blue star. So that's kind of odd, but I got a lot of the Eve outfits. I got a couple Lily outfits. There's like 70-something in total. I think about like 30-something for the first playthrough and then an extra 30-something in the New Game Plus playthrough, and I have seen them all. I've looked them all up at this point because I wanted to kind of just like see, but they're all great. There's like variations in loads of different styles, from like a skin spacesuit to dresses to sweaters to modern clothes like jeans and jackets to crazy ass swimsuits, and obviously, you know, some more risque options that people like or dislike, along with the adorable bear costume. Personally, my favorite outfits were probably the ones with the modern clothes slash style, like the sweaters, oversized jackets, jeans, the jumpsuits, etc. Honestly, the Kill Bill outfit especially is one of the best outfits in the game, hands down. It is so fucking cool. Like, and it's just a jumpsuit. It's just a yellow jumpsuit, you know. Eve isn't like showing off everything. Like, she's not in no damn swimsuit. Not to say that those outfits aren't good either, but personally, when she's more covered with the modern clothes, I think it does look better because, I don't know, just the designs are much better and they get more creative because they have a lot more to work with. And as previously mentioned, Stellar Blade does have a handful of locations you can travel to, some being way bigger than others. But even if the size doesn't really matter to you, fast traveling is only available from camp to camp, which is one of my like biggest issues with the game because it does get really annoying when you want to go back to like the hub city and you have to like teleport from one camp to another to straight back to the hub, or one camp to another, straight back to the hub, then straight to another area. Kind of odd, especially after playing games that do let you, jump around so freely. So that's something that's really easy, could even be fixed in like a quality of life update for the game in the future, which I doubt they'll do, but that's just, once again, something they can do in the second game. It's nothing game-breaking or even something that I don't think will really ruin your experience. It doesn't really add extra time to run from one area to the next, but, quality of life does diminish a bit when comparing it to other games. Now, the combat, which is honestly the biggest part of the game since there are so many different options a part of Eve's kits that you don't even unlock until you're halfway through the game, which is a great thing, by the way. Like, I really enjoy how games are like, hey, here's some stuff, get used to that, kind of master it, and then we'll give you some more stuff later on. Throwing you everything at once obviously isn't a great idea. Most games don't do that nowadays, but even then, some games do give you most of your stuff, and then they'll slightly give you a little bit more throughout, and it's not much more that is, like, game-changing. However, in Stellar Blade, they pretty much give you a whole plethora of new things, like 3 separate instances in the game. And so the main thing is the beta abilities, the burst abilities, there's countering and parrying, there's the blink actions, and then there's an unnamed devil trigger ability, which I'm not going to say for the sake of spoilers. And it's just more than enough to keep you engaged with plenty of upgrades, and even in New Game Plus, apparently, there are more upgrades for that. You have a gun as well that you can, shoot different types of bullets, and once again, there's more New Game Plus upgrades for that on your second and third playthrough, which is pretty important because the game has multiple endings, and so if you want to get these other endings, you're going to have to play through the game again. So along with the 30-something extra outfits you get in New Game Plus, the extra upgrades, the extra endings, there's like plenty to do in each playthrough, which I think is great. I do think the combat is definitely like weird to get used to at first. From the trailers, I think me and most people were like, hey, it's going to be like a DMC game, like, Devil May Cry 5, super fast, super tight. And not to say the combat isn't like fast and tight, because it does get really tight with the parrying timing, but it's kind of has this more like slow feel. Like when you're running around the map, it feels amazing, of course, but when you go into a fight, it kind of slows down to more of like a Dark Souls speed. It's a weird mix. I don't know how to explain it, but once you play the game, if you had like a preconceived notion of it being like DMC or even Dark Souls, it kind of has this middle ground between both where it's like not fast enough for DMC but not slow enough for a Souls like. And I don't think that's a bad thing. They definitely are trying to, kind of do their own thing in a certain way, which I do enjoy, but it does take some getting used to because it's very interesting, but there's just a million different combos and combinations and things. So it's a cool middle ground. But okay, before I get into the multiple endings, which is spoiler territory, I want to talk about the story of the game and its characters. No spoilers yet. The story is probably my least favorite part, but I don't totally hate it because it's relatively decent groundwork for a sequel, like I said earlier, that I, of course, have no doubt will happen at this point since the game is selling like a mega shit ton for Sony. And even it's going to have a PC port inevitably, and collab skins to release with Nikke, and maybe Nier, and just even other PlayStation characters, and even we just had a boss rush mode that came out with even more skins. So it's bound to attract even more players in the future, sell even more. But the weakest point of the story is definitely the pacing and the characters that aren't Eve, Lily, Enya, or Raven. The quote-unquote main cast is Eve, Lily, and Adam, but Adam is, like, dreadfully boring. I hate him as, he's just a boring character I do not care about. Lily isn't really, like, much better. She is cute. She has her moments to shine. She has, some secret moments that you have to unlock from getting some of the side missions, which I think is pretty cool. And her, personality definitely helps her be more interesting because it's just a little more upbeat and outgoing and whatever. And in the context of some story decisions as well, you like her more. However, just compared to Adam, it's just like, bro, what the hell? Adam is so shit. I hate him. I don't hate him because he's like a bad character. Like he does something bad. But I just don't like him because he's just boring. And I don't really want to go too much into depth on Enya or Raven because, for spoiler reasons, whether they're side characters or a part of the main story, they both have great designs and they play the roles in the story that I really did enjoy a lot compared to most other characters in the game. Enya and Raven are great. Like I said, they both, I think, add a nice bit more to the game with some emotional things and just general stuff that I can't really get into for the sake right now, but the game does have side missions and side quests that flesh out citizens who live in Zion, some doing better than others, but it all kind of remains intriguing enough that had me finish all of the side quests, since the extra story bits are a nice piece of world building and emotional character growth for all parties involved. But the story starts out relatively slow or normally paced, kind of, like a lot of games, they start slower, introduce the world and whatnot. But it quickly speeds up to like 1 bajillion in the last 5 to 6 hours of the game. And that's a big gripe for me because the pacing does feel really weirdly, and it kind of makes you wonder why they didn't flush it out through, the previous 20 to 25 hours instead of that last chunk. Granted, most games, ramp up a lot in the final couple hours, but it felt like this kind of went from, okay, here's 75% of the story, and here's the last 25%, which most games do, and this was like, hey, here's 25% in the first 20 hours, and here's the last 75 in the last 5 to 6 hours, and it's not necessarily bad, and even the ending, I really liked the true canon ending that you can get. It's just, it kind of, I wish they kind of did a little bit more beforehand. Like I said, I do have my gripes about games including multiple endings as well because, I don't really like having different endings when I would just rather see the canon ending. But I did enjoy the multiple outcomes that are present in this game, even if the true canon ending seemed a bit odd at first on the first experience. It was a little weird, but I can see where they're going with it. I'll give the final game rating after the spoiler section, so be warned, spoilers start now. So first thing is the Raven fight music. I didn't want to say there's a Raven theme since it might have given away that she's a boss, but oh my god, bro. It's so good. Like, holy shit. It's probably my favorite or second favorite song of the game. I've been listening to it a lot since I beat the game the last couple days. Another great track is when Eve is riding up the orbital elevator and the maid Arisa shows up. And right before she dies, it's playing, and even after she dies, I'm pretty sure it plays with like a distorted kind of effect. But that is also fucking amazing. I don't know the name of the track. I really wish the game kind of included something that you could like press pause and it'd show you the little name of the song in the corner. I know most games don't do that. I can't even recall a game that has ever done that. But I think for games like, Final Fantasies or Niers or Stellar Blade or stuff that really heavily relies on its music, even Zelda, even, Xenoblade Mario, Nintendo games, like, they could really benefit from this, because if someone wants to listen to a track, whether it's on YouTube or even just on streaming, if it is on streaming in the first place, that would be a great addition. Granted, that's not like gonna include in my rating of the game, because no game really ever has that, but that's just something I thought that would be pretty cool. But I did like also how the game gave you Taki's abilities as a sort of devil trigger. I didn't want to say ooh, Taki's abilities earlier, because spoilers, or that's some pretty heavy spoilers, but it added a really nice layer. And the design of Eve in that mode is also sick, because of course she has the one wing and whatever the hell for the Angel of Death. But my biggest issue that I could probably include before this, because of spoilers, is Adam. I did say I hate him. I said I don't like him because I just think he's boring. I didn't say he did anything bad. However, he did do something bad, or I guess technically not, because the true ending is with him. But I did not like Adam at all throughout the game. I thought he was boring. He didn't really play much of a role. When you talked to him, he was, once again, boring as fuck. I don't know, man. I didn't like him at all. And in the end of the game, when he shows up, and they're like, hey, take his hand or not. I was like, why the fuck would I take his hand? What the hell? Excuse me? Why would I do that? So my first playthrough, I didn't take his hand. And I had unlocked the secret Lily area from doing the side quests, so I missed out on the true ending. And if I want to get it, I'll have to replay the game, of course, but I probably won't, because there's so many other games I have to play. But I was pissed, because I was damn, why would anybody want to take his hand and listen to him, even if he's saying, oh, it will save everybody, right? 10 out of 10 times, not even 9 out of 10 times, people like Adam, or villains like Adam in video games, are lying out their ass. They're never fucking true about it. So of course I'm not gonna pick his goddamn hand. What do you think I am, man? And even then, when I picked it, his boss fight was cool. The area was cool, the arena was cool, the music I liked, but it did feel kind of anticlimactic. And I think the worst part is that, like I said, even with getting the Lily secret section and getting the true ending, or at least I could have gotten the true ending, there was so much cooler shit in the true ending. Even if I didn't want to take his hand, it was sick. And there's no save point, so I can't redo it. Like I said, I have to redo the whole game and do everything else. And it's just that kind of annoys me a bit. That I wish there was a save point. Why are we not having savable slots in games in this year? I know FromSoft doesn't do it, but come on. And yeah, when you get the true ending, you get an extra cutscene. You get to battle the bots, and the Mother Sphere comes down and all this shit, and it's really sick. I actually do like the true canon ending the more that I sit on it and think about it. Even though Eve's form with the half Natiba, half Angel of Death, half human, whatever, it is a little odd when she has the bird feet. So if we do get a sequel, her having half Animorph kind of form would be an interesting choice, but you never know, something might change. But either way, that outfit in general, that whole design is fucking awesome. It looks absolutely beautiful. I really wish you could have that for the rest of the game, for New Game Plus. But like I said, I understand why they don't have the save points, just to go back on the thing earlier, because New Game Plus clearly want you to really play it, because it adds, more outfits. There's more I think someone said there's more quests. I could be wrong. There's more upgrades, but multiple endings, more outfits, more upgrades alone is boom. That's a relatively different gameplay experience in the first place. And even if you take Adam's hand, you get a whole different boss fight. So I'm upset there's no save points, but I do at least understand that they probably purposely did that for the sake of people playing it again, because of the generally different gameplay loop, or even gameplay experience or story experience that they can get in the later half of the game. But all in all, I really enjoyed most of the game, and the true ending, like I said, was a little weird, but it was fucking sick, and I really hope we get a sequel, since Shift Up has laid a pretty damn good foundation for this game with its combat, its music, and its world-building lore, which honestly is probably the most important part to get right first in a new game series. I talked about it on stream the other day, because building off of a bad combat system in a bad lore or bad world is kind of much harder than making more compelling characters and plot for another game. If this game's story was great and characters are great, cool. You know, you can flesh that out in the sequel as well. But having bad combat and bad lore to base a whole world off of in a first game is definitely way harder than just like thinking of another good story for a second game or thinking of just better written characters for a second game. So I think they definitely got what they need to get for a first game that is like pretty important to have a good base. So in the end, Stellar Blade is an impressive first console release for Shift Up with a very promising base, like I have said, for a future sequel or IP to expand. If you love Nier, you're a fan of Souls-like combat, but with a slightly different feel, or even just if the music setting looks cool to you, I would give it a shot. Don't let all the weird discourse about the game turn you away, because at its core, Stellar Blade should be something that is celebrated from Shift Up. I give it like a 7.5 out of 10, and I think it's worth your time and money. Maybe not buying a whole-ass PS5 for it, since it is PS5 exclusive as of now, but if you already have a PS5 and you like single-player RPGs, I would say go for it. PC release is probably on the horizon in the next coming months. But yeah, thanks for watching the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I would appreciate a like, share, or a comment, but if not, that's fine too. See you next time. Let me know if you like the game or not. I think it's pretty good. You know, 7.5 out of 10 I think is generous. Yeah, adios.